Hello everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now today I'm starting a new series. I have did a video before using a 6x6 pattern paper and a 12x12 sheet of pattern paper, and I enjoyed it so much that I thought I'd turn it into a series. So at least once a month I will be making 10 cards. Well, I'll try to make 10 cards using a 6x6 paper pad and a 12x12 sheet of coordinating paper. Now this is the Bo Bunny 6x6 paper pad. It's the Penelope collection. Very beautiful browns, greens, and blues. A lot of floral images in this pattern paper here. And so that's the paper pad we're going to be using to make 10 cards today. Now well, if I can talk, I also picked up this 12x12 pattern paper. Now it was very inexpensive. I think it was a little over $1. I'll leave a link below to where you can check the paper pad out and this pattern paper. But a lot of fun images in here, a lot of floral images, and quite a few sentiments. I didn't actually have to bring in any of my stamps to create my sentiments. And so we're just going to fussy cut all of these images out and create 10 cards. Now I am going to go in with my vintage photo distress ink, and I'm going to go over most of the images with the vintage photo. I think it gives it a finished look, and I think the brown just really goes good with all these images. So I fussy cut everything out, and here they are. A lot of fun florally images. This one here I actually created two by using my craft knife and cutting out the center. And then in that 12x12 pattern paper, this was the largest image, and so it fit my A2 size card perfectly, so I didn't have to worry about that one. We're going to use that as well. So to stretch out the sentiments a little bit more, I'm taking this one and I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces and just go over it again with some vintage photo. But that's it. That's all. Everything we're going to use. We're going to use actually every single element on that pattern paper to create my 10 cards today. Now for all my cardstock, I'm going to be using some Early Espresso. This is the Stampin' Up! Cardstock. It's a real rich brown, and I think it coordinates really well with the pattern paper. So all my card bases will be A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so we're just going to jump in with card number 1. I decided to use this floral pattern and then this brown damask pattern paper. And then I grabbed my octagon dies. I'm going to take 3 of them and cut out 3 on the pattern paper here, and then I'm going to cut out 3 smaller ones on the damask paper. The brown will fit right on top of the floral. The floral was a little bit busy, and to tone it down a little bit, I thought the brown would be perfect to go on top. I'm just using my tape runner to adhere all the damask pattern into the floral pattern paper here. And I think that looks really great. Now I'm going to pop all of these up and add them to directly on my card base. Now this is a top folding card base, and there's a little bit that's overhanging, so I'm just going to trim that off. And I think that looks really neat. Okay, now we need our images. So I chose these 3 pieces to go on my card. Beautiful florals. I'm going to directly adhere this one on top of the octagons there, and then I'll pop up the second floral along with my sentiment. And for finishing touches, I'm going to go in with my Nouveau Crystal Drops. These are Duck Egg Blue. And then I also went in the center of the flowers with my Honey Gold Nouveau Crystal Drops, just to give it a little bit of shimmer. Very simple card, but very pretty, I think. That's card number 1. Okay, now we're going to move on to card number 2. Now I'm going to trim down a piece of this pattern paper to 1 1/2 inches. And then I'm going to adhere that directly to the blue pattern here. I like to do this when I create my panels. It just saves me a step. I'm going to adhere it to the right side, and then I'm going to take one of my stitched rectangle dies and cut out a panel. Now this panel is 4 by 5 1/4, so it's just slightly smaller than my card base. And then just to add a little bit something more, I had some lace that was in my stash. I'm going to just use my double-sided tape and adhere that over the seam on this panel. I think that the lace will add texture along with a little bit of dimension. Now for my sentiment for this card, I chose this little tag that says "Live Every Moment." And just to give it a little something more, I'm taking my crocodile and I'm punching holes in it, and then I'm going to add some eyelets just to give it a finished look. And then I'm going to go in with some natural jute cord and thread it through those eyelets and then tie a bow. The bow will be off to the left. And the jute cord's pretty close to the same color as my lace there. So there's our sentiment. We're going to pop that up with some foam tape and kind of arrange our scene. I directly adhered the 2 smaller flowers with my tape runner to my panel, and then I'm going to pop up my sentiment tag, and then you can see I glued my my larger flower directly on that. Now we need bells and whistles. I'm just adding fun foam behind the panel. It just is easier. And then I'm going to add that panel to my card base, right in the center. Now for a little bit of accent, in my stash, these are like a smoky gray pearl. I'm going to add 3 of them to each of the flowers. And then for a little shimmer, I'm going in with some silver moon dust. These are Nouveau crystal drops. Glitter drops, sorry. But that's it for that card, card number 2. Okay, now we're going to move on to card number 3. This is actually vertical stripe pattern paper, but I wanted to create a diagonal border. So I cut it at a diagonal, and then I'm going to use these 2 brown and cream colored pattern papers. I'm going to attach my diagonal strip of pattern paper here and just kind of arrange it. And then this die actually cuts out stitching on the left and right side, but doesn't do it on the top and bottom. It's actually a die from a MFT blueprint sketch. I think it was 23. So I just cut out my panel all at once. And then I'm going to add that's bubbles. I'm recording really early in the morning, and so you could hear the rooster this morning. Okay, but I popped up my little today sentiment. I'm going to place that right below the striped paper there. I'm going to trim off the excess. And then you can see there that I grabbed the file tab, the banner, and then the scalloped sentiment there. I'm going to attach my file tab here to the top. Lovely. And then I thought with sentiment, well, we're going to pop this banner up and place that on our card base. I just used foam tape for this. And I'm going to offset it just a little bit. I want it to be more towards the right. Lovely. I'm going to trim off the top. There's a little bit overhanging. But for my sentiment, I decided to take that fishtail banner and cut it into 2, and then create like a little, I want to call it an award tag. But I just placed 2 of them behind there with using my tape runner and pop that up and place that on my card. Finishing touches, I'm going around the edges with my white gel pen. I think the white gel pen on the early espresso cardstock is just gorgeous. I love that. And I didn't add no bling or anything. Oh no, I did add honey gold to the center of my flower on that little banner. But that's it for that card. Now we're going to move along to card number 4. Now I'm going to cut out 3 leaves using the brown damask paper we used earlier. And then I'm going to use the stripe pattern paper and add that to the left of the polka dot here. I'm going to make a side folding card, so I added my stitched rectangle die. This die is actually 4 by 5 1/4, so it's slightly smaller than my card base. And then I'm using a circle die to cut out a piece of green vellum. I'm going to cut everything out and grab my little elements. So there we have it. I'm going to trim off the side portion of the circle, so it just goes on the polka dot area of this panel here. Now I have 2 of the smaller fishtail banners, and I have to say I kind of struggle with the smaller banners. So I thought a neat way to use this would be to use the reverse side and then add them to this happiness sentiment to create a full banner. I think that's a good way to use those fishtail banner cutouts there. I'm just going to place the happiness on top of the vellum, flip that over, and then now I know where to glue without it showing on my vellum. Now I'm going to cut out the eye and the flowers off of this one. I'm kind of curving the end of the choose sentiment here. That way it kind of goes around my circle. And then I went in with some chocolate brown jute cord, doubled it up and tied a bow over the seam just to finish it up. Now I'm going to go and add my green flowers for this one. And I popped all of those up with dimensional adhesive. And I just arranged them. And then I cut out 3 of the leaves, and then I just added a few on top and then 1 on the bottom. Now for a little bit of shimmer, I'm going in, this is a Spectrum Noir Sparkle Glitter pen. I'm going over the leaves and the flowers with that. And then I did go in with some Nuvo Crystal Drops, the Oyster Gray, and dotted the center of the 3 green flowers. And then that's it for that card. Okay, now for card number 5. This one turned out really pretty. I cut out a panel. This panel is 4 by 5 1/4 with the Early Espresso cardstock. And then I grabbed a embossing folder for my stash. This one has a wood grain look to it, and I just embossed this panel. I think that's a nice way to add texture to any card, is you're using your embossing folders. Now in my stash also I have this copper colored washi tape. I'm just going to add 3 strips to a piece of white cardstock. And then I'm going to take that same leaf die that we used earlier and cut out 3 of my leaves. I think this is a nice technique to do for anyone using any kind of washi tape. I think it's real fun. So there we have that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add my wood grain panel, and I ran out of tape again. And I'm going to add that directly to my card base. Lovely. Now for the sentiment for this card, I chose the banner that said Love Beyond Words, and I'm just going to pop that up with some foam tape and place that directly on my card base. Now I decided to use these 3 flowers for this card, and I just arranged them on my card base here. But I thought it needed just a little something, so in my stash I have some real thin copper wire. I just gathered it in a little bunch, and then using a glue dot I'm going to secure it in that area between the flowers. I think this adds a little splash of color, and it coordinates really well with the leaves also. And I just like the look of this. I used the brown flower that we cut out, and then add that right over the glue dot on the copper wire. For finishing touches, I added some Golden Sunset Nuvo Glitter Drops. These coordinate with the leaves and the copper wire really well. And that's it for that card. I think that's probably one of my favorites. Now, for card number 6, this was my problem card. You can see I already added some, this is honey gold Nuvo crystal drops to the center of the flowers. So I already made one attempt with this card, but I decided to go in with on a panel. This panel is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and I just used my white gel pen and did some faux stitching. But I'm just going to place that floral image on that panel, and I did pop it up with some fun foam. Now I'm going to add my sentiment below it. And I was going to leave it at that, but I just thought it needed just something else. There we go. So you can see where I added the honey gold glitter drops. So I went to my stash and I grabbed this love die. The nice thing about this is it creates an outline along with the inside sentiment. So I'm just going to cut out the outside with vellum and then the inside with the Early Espresso cardstock. And then just using my Quickie glue pen, I'm going to adhere the love to my vellum. Place that right in the center there, and I think the font on this is just gorgeous. I just love this die. But I thought adding it to my sentiment would be perfect, because that way my sentiment will say "Love beautiful things." Again, I'm just going to use my Quickie glue pen and adhere that to my card base. I popped that panel up with the faux stitching with foam, fun foam, and then added a few gems, and again along with the honey gold Nuvo glitter drops. And then that's it for that card. Now for card number 7, I'm taking the stripe pattern paper and I'm going to adhere it to the green and brown pattern paper. And then I was going to leave it at that, but then I wanted a strip of brown in there. So I'm taking a piece of the brown damask. This is a 1/2 inch strip. And I'm just going to secure it right in the center of that stripe pattern paper there. And then I'm taking my die, which is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and I'm going to cut out my panel. Now these are the elements I chose for this card. I'm going to take the little file tab and adhere that to the top. And then there's a fishtail banner here with some green flowers. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape. Place that down that stripe pattern paper there. Lovely. Okay, there's those banners again. Now I wanted to use this large flower, and so for the center, instead of using the glitter drops, I have these scrapbook rivets. I've had them for my stash forever, and so I don't even know if they're available anymore, but I just placed one right in the center of the flower. It was a pretty large flower and I think it went well. So I'm just going to pop up my flower with some dimensional adhesive and place that right over the top part of that brown banner. And then to stretch these banners, I decided to go on the top and the bottom of the flower, creating like a continuous banner. And for this last one, boy, I didn't know where to put this one. So I ended up putting it all the way to the left there. I'm going to trim it down just a little bit, and then just using my tape runner, I'm going to adhere it to the left of that floral, smaller fishtail banner there. I popped the entire panel up with some fun foam. Just curling up all the edges. And remove the backing here, and then we'll place that on my card base. Right in the center. And I didn't add any glitter, I just wanted to keep this one pretty simple. But that's it for card number 7. Okay, for card number 8, I'm taking a piece of just regular vellum, cutting out a circle. And then I took these 2 pattern papers here. One of them has little itty bitty hearts, and then the other one has a crisscross pattern. I am going to adhere the little heart pattern paper to the ivory pattern paper there, and I'm going to place my vellum right over the end. I didn't get that heart pattern paper straight when I cut it, but I wasn't worried about it because I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to trim off the end, the excess here, so it fits on my card base well. And then I'm going to flip it over and pop this entire panel up with some fun foam and place that directly on my card base. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the leaf with the leaves, using the washi tape and the copper colored washi tape there. These are the elements we're going to use. I'm going to grab the file tab, put that on the top, and I did pop up the sentiment that says Trust Your Journey, and I just arranged the ivory flowers around my sentiment along with my little copper leaves. Now I did add some of the golden sunset to the center of the flowers. And that's it for that card. Now we're going to move on to card number 9. I took this piece of pattern paper and cut out a panel that was 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm just going to place a piece of the early espresso cardstock right behind this frame here, just to give it a little stability, and trim off the edges around it. And then I'm going to take the centerpiece that says Collect Beautiful Moments, and I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape. Okay, now there's 2 of the little tags, and I thought it'd be fun to create some, well, make some tags out of them. Excuse me. So I'm taking my crocodile, punching holes, and then I'm going to take some eyelets. These are like a muted gold eyelet, and I'm going to set those so they stay put. And then I'm using some natural brown jute cord, and I'm going to thread my little tags here. There's one. And then I did also tie 2 little bows to place on top of those tags. Okay. We're going to adhere our pattern paper to our card base. And then we're going to go ahead and add our framed area here. I'm just going to trim off any overhanging. There's a little bit on the top. And then I thought if I offset it a little bit to show a little bit of the brown, it would look really neat. So, but before we do that, I'm going to pop up my little tags, and I tucked the strings right underneath that pattern paper, and I did add both of them together. Lovely. Now I didn't know what to do with these 3 little hearts, so I decided to cut out 2 of the hearts on 2 of them and place those on my tag. There's a blue tag and a green tag, so I just placed a heart on each one of those. And then I did go ahead and add the little bows to the top of them. Now I didn't know what to do with that last one, so I thought, well, I'm just going to place, that's the only one that I put on in the center. But for bells and whistles, I'm going in with some jewel drops. These are a Sea Breeze. They'll dry translucent. And I'm just going over the flowers on that panel there. And that's it for that card. Now for card number 10, our final card, I'm taking this pattern paper. I'm going to adhere it to the large floral pattern that came in the collection. And then I'm going to be using a die that's 3.5 by 4 3/4. It's a stitched rectangle die. And then I cut out a small strip of the brown and ivory heart pattern paper. I'm going to adhere it there and then cut out everything at once. Now once that's done, I'm going to take, this is some lace that I have in my stash. It's real pretty, and I think it would be a nice accent to this card. So I'm just going to adhere that. I'm going to pull up my brown striped pattern paper there. Well, actually it's not striped. It has little hearts on it. I'm going to lift that up and then add some score tape on that seam. And then I'm going to add my lace and then just tuck the excess around the back. And I think that looks really pretty. Now, just because I want to add this to my lace, I'm going to add some score tape to this little piece here and place that right over the seam of the lace in the pattern paper. Lovely. There we go. Now, these are the elements we're going to use. This is all that we have left. And so I thought I'd use, there's that fishtail banner again. I cut it in half, and I'm going to use the bottom and add it to the bottom of my sentiment, and then use the top and add it to the very top. So it looks like it's actually really long instead of like a 1-inch banner. I kind of stretched it a little bit. Now I'm taking a piece of ivory cardstock from my stash, and then this is a fancy flourish die from MFT. It's really pretty. So I cut out 2 little flourishes with that. Those are going to go under my sentiment, and I'm just going to adhere that down with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. And then I'm going to pop up my sentiment panel here, and that's going to go over the center of those flourishes. Now I added the larger flower directly on my sentiment panel, and then I popped up the smaller one. I added fun foam behind this entire panel, and I'm just going to place that in my card base. I am going to go in the center of those flowers with the oyster gray Nuvo crystal drops. And that's card number 10. So, and I have no leftover pieces. But that's everything that I used with the Bo Bunny Penelope collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think. Here at the end are close-up pictures of all 10 cards. I wish you a fantastic day. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. We'll see you again soon.